First of all, I will, on the behalf of the Department of Political Science and my personal behalf, I welcome you all and a very good morning to all of you. We are very lucky that we have Professor Harish Thakur with us today for a very fruitful deliberation on a very pertinent topic and very important topic. Before the starting of the proceeding, I would like to invite Professor Harish Dalal, sir, who is heading the Department of Political Science, Central University of Haryana, for the formal welcome of the speaker as well as all the other guests who join us on this virtual platform. Sir, what do you say?
Thank, thank you, Dr. Rajiv ji. I feel very delighted and extend my heartiest thanks as well as welcome to all our esteemed participants who are here. First of all, I would like to extend the welcome to our today's main speaker, Professor Harish Thakurji, who is a very seasoned academician and is heading the Department of Political Science along with the Department of Defense and Strategic Studies as well as Director for Center of Gandhian Studies in Himachal Pradesh University, Shimla. Dr. Harish Thakur has a wide experience. He has widely traveled and a number of seminars and books are in his credit, besides guiding a number of scholars for PhD and MPhil. Sir, we are really thankful to have you with us in this first speech or expert talk held by the department. I once again welcome to you on behalf of my department, on behalf of the university. Another welcome of mine goes to our esteemed Vice Chancellor, Professor R.C. Kuhadji, who has to be with us, but simultaneously because as all of us know that we have scheduled this program on 3rd of the May, but due to some sudden mishappening in the university, we have to shift it. And Professor Kuhad Saab, who has always with us with the blessings, being engaged in some other assignments and simultaneously another webinar, he has just extended his blessings to us and said that if I have time, I will certainly join you without any formalities. So I also welcome our Honorable Vice Chancellor in absentia. Then I extend my heartiest welcome to all my esteemed colleagues, our faculty members, and maybe Chanchal Sharma ji, Rajiv ji, Ramesh ji, Dr. Santesh ji, Saveta, and Dr. Rajesh Malik, Kulwant ji, Dr. Yudhvir, Minu, Dr. Suresh ji, S.K. Misra ji, and other colleagues, as well as my friends from different areas and my dear students, research scholars. I welcome all of you in this one-day expert talk, or we can say a webinar. And the theme of the webinar is very pertinent one. That is the topic is that of social justice in India, Ambedakarites and others, a very relevant one, which we all should know about what the social justice is and how Dr. Ambedkar and others contributed in this direction. Though it is the prerogative of the speakers and Dr. Rajiv also highlight on the different dimensions, what aspects have been there. But I would like to focus on it a, uh, just on a very superficial level. What is social justice? When we talk about, if I have to say only in one words, we can say that when there is social security, then the social justice will be there. When the social equity is there, when the peoples who are the marginalized, deprived, they have the accessibility to the resources, they have to say in the social and political system, then we can say that social justice is there. If there is no deprivation, there is no discrimination, and the deprived sections are empowered one, then I think there will be social justice, on which Professor Harish ji and Dr. Rajiv, they will further highlight. So, with this, I once again, I think that this lecture is the first one of a series which we are going to held and get a number of scholars from different areas who are the eminent one, and they will speak on different dimensions or different aspects of our subject. So again, once again, in this first series, in this first lecture, I once again welcome to all our esteemed participants, and specifically our main speaker, Professor Harish Kumar ji. Thank you, sir. Dr. Rajiv ji, mic is over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your blessings and words of wisdom. Before the starting of today's lecture, I just want to a formal introduction of our speaker. Our speaker today is Professor Harish K. Thakur, who's presently the chairman of Department of Political Science as well as Department of Defense and Security Studies. Beside that, he is also undertaking the charge of Director, Center for Canadian Studies. When I'm looking at his profile, even at the Google Scholar, he authored more than 14 books and more than 100 research papers. After 100, I have not counted that. This shows the academic prolificness of our speaker. And last time when we discussed about the topic on which he is going to deliberate today, social justice in India, the Ambedakarites and others, the first and foremost thing he pointed that, okay, we have lot of discussion about the social justice in the contemporary time, but how the discourse of social justice has been formulated during the colonial period and how it shaped the Indian constitution, how it traveled to the different trajectory and path, and what values was incorporated in social justice, especially in the Indian context, that need to be understood. And in that regard, the social justice in its very formative phase, I'm talking about the early 19th century, 20th century, is very much important in present context. Secondly, when we borrow this term exactly in term from the Western notion, we miss certain traits, and when we incorporate that term in the Indian scenario, we have to add certain dimensions because India offer a very unique situation where we have multiple castes, multiple languages, multiple religion and ethnicity. Maintaining a societal dimension of justice in such a plural society is a tough task, and how different groups demanded for the equal rights or equal dignity in this mainstream is an important thing that we should know being as a student of the political science. So without much taking much time, I again thankful to Professor Harish Kumar Thakur and invite him to deliberate on such a relevant topic. Sir, Professor Harish K. Thakur. Thank you, sir. Sir, unmute yourself. Sir. आप muted है. Unmute yourself.
Okay, sir. Thank you,
Yes,
Rajiv ji.
now you.
First of all, I thank Professor R.C. Kuhar, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Central University, Haryana, under whose patronage this lecture series begins. And head of the department, Professor R.S. Dalalji, who has been in our close association for so many years. And we have worked with him. He's a wonderful and a wonderful scholar of the area. And we keep on discussing so many things during our meetings about the university and how to carry forward, especially during these times of the pandemic, during these troubled times. So it was our discussion, and that's how we have also started the series here. And Professor Dalal has carried this into university. I congratulate him and I thank him that he has given me the opportunity to begin here. And Dr. Rajiv Kumar Singh ji, who is the organizing secretary, my best wishes to you for carrying forward this process, because we are into the times of pandemic, and the education is transforming fundamentally. The style of education is transforming fundamentally. We are into online conversations, we are into online movements on the plane of knowledge. So this is a new era, and we have to try to be compatible with these developments. So I would begin with I will split my lecture on social justice, as my title is Ambedakarites and the Others. The purpose of the title was to convey to the audience, to the convey to the students, to convey to the scholars that see in the pre and post independence scenario, the voices about social justice, which is quite a modern term. Traditionally, it was used differently, or traditionally it has different connotations. This is a term that was devised during the Industrial Revolution. I will come to that later on. So the scenario about the evolution of the concept of justice over the millenniums, over the centuries, is quite wide. It has wide, huge range. And in India, when we speak about the word, it is Ambedkar that the name comes first, instead of Mahatma Gandhi, instead of Ram Manohar Lohia, instead of JP, instead of several other voices, Vinoba Bhave, and so many voices who worked towards the benefits and towards the upliftment of the socially marginalized communities. So Ambedkar is the sole voice who has a revolutionary character and who has a revolutionary vision for the upliftment of the this socially marginalized class that broadly comes under the term Dalit. I will come to the term and its universe and what does it carry later on. First, I begin with the first section, that is on the idea of justice. And then I will come to the Ambedkar and the others. So I will begin with, see, we all are human beings, and the idea of human rights is quite fundamental to humans, and United Nations also recognize this. And any of us, human rights are those rights without which the living and without which the survival of man is difficult. The provision of the basic rights. So these basic rights also ensure the upliftment of the self, the realization of the self of an individual. So how this individual realization takes place? It is the attainment of satisfaction and happiness. If you take it in utilitarian term, then it would be the achievement of happiness. It would be the achievement of satisfaction. That's what, if you take in spiritual terms, then it will be the attainment of nirvana. It will be the attainment of salvation. So these are different terminologies used in the material and the spiritual world, and according to the environment and the theories of space and time. So if the purpose of life is the attainment of self-realization and the attainment of happiness, let us take it in utilitarian way, then there are certain social structures, there are certain social bodies, there are certain social classes which sometimes hamper the growth or the possibilities of self-realization. And these possibilities, if hampered, these structures are called the structures of dominances. I'm bringing you back to the plane, the social plane, where you can take it in Marxist terminology, you can take it in Rousseauian terminology, and you can take it in the terminology of so many modern political thinkers. We are students of political science. We are aware of the richness of the ideas of philosophers and the futility. See, philosophers are good in raising questions, but the problem with philosophers is that they fail to produce the solutions. And we are grappling for the solutions. The problems and questions have been posed by several philosophers. So for the attainment of, for the growth of this better self, if there are structures of those social dominance, structures of dominance, those structures have to be eliminated. Those structures have to be destroyed. And liberalism is the voice. Liberalism, those who spoke about the functionality of the theory of rights, the functionality of the utility of rights. So the liberals are the first who wanted to demolish these structures of dominance. So before I come to liberalism, there are lots of things which are in between the liberal and Marxist discourse, and we have a very rich history. I will take you back to the earliest times when the idea of justice takes shape. See, I will begin with India because as per the documents of, as per the historical and civilizational facts, Indian civilization is one of the oldest civilization. And if we go back to the Vedas, I don't think there is any written literature that is prior to the existence of Vedas. So I will begin with, there is reference to the idea of justice. There is reference to the idea of governance. There is reference to the idea, to the institutions, political institutions of monarchy. So Indian history can be divided into the Kautilyan and the post-Kautilyan and the pre-Kautilyan era. In the pre-Kautilyan era, we take all the Dharam Shastras, we take all the Puranas, Mahabharata, Ramayana, and Vedas. And we all know that in the Shanti Parva of Mahabharata, there is talk about the theory of origin of state. They speak about monarchy. They speak about democracy even. So these institutions were there, and the purpose of these institutions was to provide order to the society, was to provide justice, was to lay the principle of justice in the society. And one important, we have not gone into much of the, we take Kautilya as a strategic thinker. And his philosophy is so significant that at one point he defines justice in just one line. He says that justice is empowerment of the weakest. Empowerment of the weakest means if you devolve power that we try to devolve in democracy, that we try to devolve through Panchayati Raj system, that we try to devolve through the federal systems to the regional and peripheral communities and people, then this devolution is a methodology of empowering the weaker sections. So this is one of very significant, and I never came across this definition of justice. Justice simply means the empowerment of the weakest section of the society. Weaker sections of the society is given by Kautilya. But we are into this Western epistemological frame and our scholars are into that cognitive mimicry of the West, that we have never taken note of the worth, the volume, and the richness of the knowledge that is there in Vedas, in Puranas, though they may have deficiencies. That is different point, but they have contributed a lot to the knowledge. So from the Vedic time, if you come forward, we land upon the landscape of Greek political thought. The tragedy with the political thought and with the syllabus framing in Indian universities is that. Let us see what happens now. Things may change, and we are getting alarmed and awakened about Indian history and our knowledge system. We normally begin with Plato and Aristotle and Greek thinkers, and then we somehow, with the little inhibitions, we try to introduce the Indian political thought, but technologically, I won't say technologically, chronologically, sorry, that falls after the Indian political thought, and the Indian political thought is as rich. And I will bring few things to your notice that Plato says that it is virtue, that is the justice, that is the virtue of society, that is the virtue of individual life. So the Platonic conception of justice is, as we all know, in his theory of justice, he says that it is the realization and performance of one's duty in one's allocated station of life. So what does this mean? He categorizes society into three classes: the class of spirit, reason, and spirit and appetite. Rest he places them below appetite or into a kind of slave society. So this definition, if we analyze philosophically, theoretically, and conceptually, it is based on the Vedic tradition of the attributes of human beings. So human beings, there are men of mind or reason, there are men of prowess or power who are called Kshatriyas, and then the appetite who are workers, who cultivators. So this class of Plato, it tells that Platonic vision of a philosopher king and vision of a just society governed by philosopher king is somewhere influenced by the Indian political tradition and Indian classification of society into four varnas. This classification of Plato derives from the literature or the kind of ideas which were prevalent already there in Indian political tradition. So, followed by Aristotle, who says that it is justice consists in performance of the justice consists in when state provides the best of the life to the subjects. So he conveys this tradition, and it is somehow we find influenced by. Then later on, in medieval ages, one important thing about the Indian political tradition and Western political tradition is that the Indian political tradition has been exempt from the kind of ideas that we call the dark ages of European history, when there was church and king nexus or that kind of nexus where the rights of the people were suppressed. In India, we had monarchs. In India, we had dandaniti. In India, we had the concept of dharma that was representative of, and the concept of dharma was above the institution of king. King had also to follow that dharma to in order to perform his duties. So as per dharma, so the idea of justice is very significant during our traditional or Vedic traditions. And in Europe, this idea and the idea realization of the rights of people comes somewhere in 17th, 18th century, when this the voices of existential realization, the idea of existentialism, the troubles of existentialist kind of existentialist realization comes to people, and people grapple with their routine life problems and challenges to hindrances to their lives. So in this modern era, if we come to this existentialist and the simultaneous occurring of industrial revolution, that is that this is the time when the idea of social justice takes shape. In the meantime, we have discussions over utilitarians. utilitarians define the idea of justice as per the utility of the availability of rights and availability of provisions, availability of laws of the state. If they are useful to majority of the people, then we speak about the happiness of the greatest number of the greatest happiness of the majority section of the society. And this tradition was simultaneously carried by the existentialists who spoke about the idea of rights, and this tradition was carried forward by John Locke, carried forward by the contractualist Rousseau, the Hobbesian idea of man. And then later on, it was carried forward by economists like Adam Smith, who speaks about the invisible hand principle of nature. So the utilitarians are simultaneously followed by a classical liberalist tradition in Western world, who are aware of the rights of people, who speak about the rights of people. We all know that John Locke spoke about the theory of natural rights and the right to property, life, liberty, property. He made it mandatory as per it has been given by nature, and he brings king out of the role of providing these laws. The same contribution is thereby in a different way by Hobbes, and Rousseau introduces the idea of property, and it was the institution of property that brings people into the state of conflict, and therefore people have to enter into a contract. This Rousseau's idea of property is carried forward by Karl Marx later on, and he develops the theory of historical materialism. I will come to this later. We have some more additions to the idea of justice. Immediately after this, these thinkers, Locke and Smith, and later on Losky and McIver, they also speak about the welfare state, and that notion of the welfare, or that is the question between the freedom of individual, should it be extreme, should it be limited by state. So we are aware about the functions of welfare and the classical state. So this tradition of theory of justice, the idea of justice that developed during the times of Industrial Revolution, and it spoke about four things. This idea spoke about justice during the Industrial Revolution because people are into different kind of society. There was industrialization, there was urbanization, and people were into factory jobs, people were into minings, people were into a kind of the Marxist reference to relationship that is between the industrialist and the worker kind of relationship. So during that time, there was the question of the rights of laborers who were majority in number. There was the question of the working hours. There was the question of the working hours plus the rest to be given, recesses between the continuity of jobs. So this was a critical phase, and it is at this phase that the idea of social democracy emerges. And this idea takes shape in 4 points. For example, the access to resources. How social democracy you can give, social justice, you can differentiate it from the idea of traditional idea of justice that was individual based. That was based on the performance of duties by individual and performance of duty by the king, by individual and the king. But this time, in the modern phase of the discussions and discourses over justice, the idea of justice and the idea of social justice brings into its fold society as a whole, majority of the people as a whole. So they speak about the access to resources. Number one means every person, every citizen of the society should have access to the primary sources, education and livelihood and proper food and shelter. And then they speak about this equity. Equity is a wonderful idea. Professor Dalal was mentioning about equity. See, if we give equal rights and if we try to maintain equity, these are two different things. Equal rights means providing the same things to everyone. Equity means providing the required tools, providing the required and necessary facilities as per the requirement of the person. You can't give tractor to a doctor and you can't give a vehicle to a farmer. They don't have utility. These facilities are not the requirements of farmer and doctors. So that's how equity defines. And then participation. Participation refers to that the every individual should have voice in the system. Every individual should be able to transform his idea, his requirement, his needs into public. Into he should be able to make that vocal. He should be able to convey that idea to the society. So this is another, and one more was the digestion to digest diversity in your society. Diversity. Every society, very few societies or states are there in the world which are not diverse. But most of the societies are, since they are diverse in nature, Indian society has diversity on the basis of community, religion, race, region, and caste. And Western societies are having different other kinds of diversities. There may be diversities based on status. There may be diversities. There may be diversities based on class. There may be diversities based on races, nationalities. They have different diversities. But the idea of social justice calls for the adjustment, the maturity to digest the existence of the diversity in your society, the diversity of any kind. So in India, we can speak about in today's narrative, sometimes this is argued that the minorities are not feeling comfortable with the narrative of the current ruling vision of the state. So that kind of that was had a different character in the during the times of previous regimes. It was caste based first, and then now it is community based. In future, it can change the character. So the idea of justice also keeps on changing. Slavery was an institution which was considered just in primitive times, but today slavery is considered a crime. So just, the feeling the prime content or the spirit of justice changes over time. It is dynamic in nature. So in current scenario, I will bring a few of the names into discussion, and then I will come to Ambedkar and his colleagues. The prime discussion, I'm still into my first part of the discussion. So this utilitarian and the classical variant of the tradition of justice has been represented by a few more scholars. John Rawls is there, Nozick is there, Amartya Sen is there, Waltz is there, and few more names are there. So I will bring into your notice the concern of John Rawls. John Rawls speaks about distributive justice, means the availability of the resources and methods, availability of the facilities to all the citizens of equally on the equality basis. So his distributive justice is a kind of deontological ethical argument. Deontological ethical argument means he wants to tell that justice is a kind of set rules. He gives a lots of discussion about veil of ignorance and how this idea justice as fairness evolves. That is just an exemplary side, but he wants to tell that justice is the idea of fairness of justice incorporates the idea of distribution of justice, the distribution of rights to all the people. So on the equal basis, on egalitarian basis. But Amartya Sen, the John Rawls idea and Nozick takes a different route. He stresses more on the idea of liberty, and he wants to take the route of classical liberalists who more focus on the theory of laissez-faire. So Amartya Sen takes a little bit different point from John Rawls. John Rawls takes the institutional or deontological character of justice. Amartya Sen takes the consequential character. Consequential character means if you formulate a policy, if it is benefiting the majority of the people, if it is benefiting the weaker sections, then that policy is fine. But John Rawls says the policy should be good. The policy should have a moral content of goodness. Doesn't matter that it is benefiting everyone. So the in Rawlsian view, the Ambedkar's idea of reservation is a consideration of a kind that by going for reservation, we believe that we are doing justice to a particular section. I will come to this debate later on. And from Amartya Sen's, you must have gone through his volume, The Idea of Justice. Amartya Sen's idea of justice, which is consequential in nature, it tells that if some policy is benefiting the most, then that policy is good. So it is the consequence that determines the nature of the policy. It is not the policy that determines the consequences. So the two are upside down. And Amartya Sen gives the example of Gita also. He discusses the idea, the concern of Lord Krishna and the concern of Arjun. Arjun is consequential in, if I do this as per dharma, I will lose all my brothers and I will lose all my gurus and family members. But Krishna says for the establishment of Nyaya, which is a pre-consequential state of thing, then we have to go for that action that Arjuna was initially scared of. Now I bring you to this was the background of the idea of justice from the times of Vedas to the modern times. Now I will bring you to the state of justice and to the idea of justice as enunciated by Dr. Ambedkar. See, Ambedkar was a polymath. We know him only as a Dalit leader, but he was a scholar par excellence. He was a journalist. He was founder of so many important journals like Muk Nayak, Bahishkrit Bharat, Prabuddha Bharat, and Janta, and he formulated many organizations during his lifetime. Similarly, he was an advocate, a lawyer, a jurist, and there are several dimensions to Ambedkar's character. So he is probably, so far as if one has to take on, if we go for comparison of Ambedkar with his contemporaries, then without doubt, I would say that he was the real Brahman in the tradition of Vedas. He was the real scholar and unparalleled by any other contemporary in Indian history. That's why that was one of the logics to keep that Ambedkarites and the others. So that's why Ambedkar stands as an institution. He is compared with Moses. Moses of who escaped those Israelite tribes from Egyptian slavery. He went for their redemption. So his comparison is sometimes done with Moses also. He was given the title of Bodhisattva also. And he is compared with Periyar, but his ideas and his philosophy is far ahead of Periyar. Periyar was found short of. He went for little bit anti-national activities. I won't say, I won't go into that debate, but we all know that what Periyar is. Periyar is called Ambedkar of the South. So Ambedkar is a polymath, and his representation of the idea of Dalit. Dalit has a universe of it. Dalit is a term that was, as per, if we go for the references of historians, Ranjit Guha, not Ranjit Guha, Ramchand Guha, somewhere writes, Ramchandra Guha somewhere writes that for the first time, Dalit term was used in 1932 when Gandhi and Ambedkar were grappling during the Pune Pact. And Ambedkar agreed not to go for separate electorate for the Dalits. And this was a critical time when we also come across a meeting between Savarkar and what does Dalit mean? I will bring to your notice now how Gopal Guru defines Dalit and how Panthers party that was found in 1970, how it defines Dalits. So Dalit was primarily, it was referent to during the Buddhist time, during the times of Lord Buddha, I got somewhere references that it was referred to licentious people who were having less morals in life. But later on, it got to the suppressed people or Dalan that we call, and in that sense, it is used. But if we take this word as Dalan or suppressed, then only caste people are not suppressed. Tribals are also suppressed. And higher caste order people are also in certain areas, they are suppressed. OBCs are also suppressed. So this term encapsulates, incorporates into its fold all the suppressed communities. So that's why this term has become popular. It is not part of constitution. It is not part of any legal. And I remember that in some 98 or somewhere in I'm not exactly sure about the year. The one of the judgment of Supreme Court was about that Dalit is not the right term to refer to a particular community because officially we have gone for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. It is a narrative that it is a term that is popular with the academicians. So Dalit, as Gopal Guru would define, it is not a metaphysical construction. Rather, it derives its epistemic and political strength from material and social experiences of the community. The category takes ideological assistance from Buddha, Marx, Ambedkar, Phule, and in the process becomes a man-centered rather than God-centered, unlike that is implicit in Gandhian connotation of origin. So Gopal Guru tries to dissociate the spiritual element from the idea of Dalit, and it brings it into the material plane that the people, the people of any community who are suppressed, who are facing the material constraints in realization of self as a begun point. So those people who are struggling for that, they are Dalits. Panthers party gives another dimension to it. I will bring more arguments and theoretical inputs into Ambedkar's idea of and Ambedkar and others. In those others, I would include Lohia and JP, Narendra Dev, and some other people, Gandhi, and even the European contemporaries, Marx and Gramsci. Marx was not his contemporary, but he was deeply influenced. Say, Marxist contribution to the understanding of social disparities, of understanding the capitalist and non-capitalist nature of the society, or the class nature of the society, or the distinction between the rich and the poor, bourgeois or the proletariat kind of differentiation, is based on his idea of historical materialism. Initially, somewhere in 1959 in American Tribune, he writes that as soon as industrial revolution arrives in India, India will have lots of railways and buses, roads, and that kind of network. So that horizontal network will demolish the vertical structure of caste. But that didn't happen. And that remained a problem in Europe also. He went for the idea of class, and he gives the idea of base and superstructure, that at the base, these are the economic forces, and superstructure is reflective of cultural, social, political, all the shapes which are primarily based on the class narrative or the economic narrative of the basis of the society. But this was one-way traffic. He says that at the root it is economic base, and rest is the reflection of economic relationship, the sources of forces that he speaks about. But later on, when this idea became more complex in its application in Europe, Marx realized, Engel in fact realized, that it should be a both-way traffic. It is not a one-way traffic from base to superstructure, but superstructure to base also. So from base to superstructure was the evolution of history, and that he determines or calls historical materialism. But from when he says that it is vice versa, from superstructure means political forces, social forces, cultural forces also disturb the nature, affect the functioning of forces of nature which are economic in nature, then he calls it dialectical materialism. It is the dialectics between these forces. And after that dialectics, it was termed as economic determinism by Engels. And Engels also said that, see, if this economic determinism is failing in Europe, this can play havoc in America.
हरीश जी की आवाज नहीं आ रही क्या? रेंज का चक्कर है क्या कुछ?
हाँ सर, आवाज
सर किसी
आवाज
के पास भी नहीं आ रही।
हाँ हाँ,
क्या है सर?
रेंज वाला हो सकता है मुद्दा।
मैसेज
हरीश जी
करो।
को बताऊं क्या?
हाँ, मैसेज भेजो सर।
अभी भेज।
एक बार फोन कर दो।
Am I visible, sir?
Yes sir, yes, you are visible as well as audible.
कॉल आई है, उससे ये ब्रेक हो गया कनेक्शन कुछ ना सर. So after
चलो,
Gramsci, who takes this hegemony factor and brings social element into it, I will bring Lohia into this discussion because he is another contemporary, and we sometimes regret that why didn't Lohia and Ambedkar and Savarkar, why did they never met? Otherwise, their ideas about the social justice and the upliftment of the Dalits, their ideas were same. Lohia gives another twist to class character. He says that there are classes, but he calls them intersectionalist. This approach is called intersectionalist approach, in which he wants to break the caste hierarchies. And he speaks about the gender justice. He speaks about two classes, sex and caste hierarchies. And that caste hierarchy could be broken by kind of relief to these sections, and doing away with the class narrative of Karl Marx, he brings these two new things on the basis of which he speaks about horizontal solidarity. Horizontal solidarity means solidarity among the majority of among the different communities of the society, irrespective of. So he wanted to bring OBCs also into its fold. And this horizontal solidarity was later on politically manifested in Bahujan Samaj Party by Kanshiram and Mayavati, and the socialism of Lohia was carried forward by Yadavs. So these are the dimensions, and Ambedkar's contribution is somewhere close to the contribution of Max Weber. Max Weber departs from Karl Marx when he says that, see, the social reality is not the classes, the economic determinism of Karl Marx, but even status matters. And in European society, when we go for the discussion about status, we go for the references to status. Status means that a person, maybe he is rich, a person maybe he is poor, but they are equal in status. Aristocrats are not always rich. He speaks about the status kind of narrative, and which was more true of India. In India, we don't think that all the Brahmins are of equal economic status. They are poor also, they are rich also, but status is status. So he brings idea of this the and has cast an Indian. He says that the reality of Hinduism and the reality of Indian society is that it is divisible into a kind of class order that is manifested through caste. And Indian caste, and from 1928 he started looking for that through his I'm not getting that one journal he used to publish in 1928. Through that, he started talking about relinquishing Hinduism, because he found that in this hierarchical order of caste in Hindu society, no individual will get dignified way of living. So his preferences initially were to join Christianity, to join Islam, to join Arya Samaj, to join Buddhism. He had ruled out Arya Samaj and Buddhism, but he never he had joined. But his preferences were so many phone calls are disrupting me, so I'm getting a little bit distracted. Sorry for that. Uh, so when he talked, even Sikhism was in his, and his responses from Christians that if you join Christianity, it will be a nominal transformation. There will be no spiritual content in it. Means you will be kept discriminated in Christianity also. So he dropped the idea. Then for Islam he went, but then in 1939-40 he had a meeting with Munje, something Munje of Hindu Mahasabha. That meeting is very important, and it is called also the Ambedkar Munje Pact also, in which Munje forced him that if you want to live Hinduism, don't join the religions of foreign origin. Christianity he had already turned down, and Islam was the another target. Although he thought that Islam, the Muslims are more in number, so in if we join Muslims, Islam, then we will be more secure. But after this pact, he went for Buddhism and in annihilation of caste and the untouchables. He gave a different theory also about the origin of the Dalits, in which he refers that that is a little bit that also refers to the Aryan Dravidian debate also. He says that during the time of Lord Buddha, there were nomads who kept on moving, and those who were settled, they committed atrocities on the moving tribes, and those tribes who were habitual of eating beef or dead animals, they were turned untouchables, and later on they were pushed to the lower ladder of the the caste hierarchy. So he tells that this is the development of the Buddhist time, and if we join Buddhism, it will be a homecoming. We will be joining our mother religion. So he tries to trace that. But his idea of joining Buddhism was that he was not so much happy with Marxism. He studied at Columbia University. The environment was against communists in America. So that kind of impression was on his mind. And when he came back from Columbia to India, in Bombay, he tried to meet communists who were of a higher order. So communists who were Brahmins and of higher order, they didn't entertain him properly. So he found that even communism and those who are handling the idea of communism, they are not the right people to be talked with. So this is how Ambedkar comes across different streams. And one important dimension I would like to discuss about the Ambedkar's voice for justice of the poor, Harijan term that at Ratnagiri, Mahatma Gandhi calls Mahatma Gandhi and Savarkar meets. This is a strange and less referred to meeting. And I'm surprised why this idea and the jubilance and the zeal of Savarkar has not been encashed by the right wing and by the Sangh. He gave the idea of Hindutva. Savarkar was against caste system, and he met at Ratnagiri and he told Mahatma Gandhi that, see, this is the right time to destroy caste system, let us work against it. But Mahatma Gandhi says, no, this can cause civil war, this, we can't go for that. And Mahatma Gandhi refused that these are all Harijans. So Savarkar says, we all are Harijans. Savarkar was not against befitting in so many orthodoxies of Indian society. He was scientific and rational, and why this meeting couldn't carry forward. And such a revolutionary idea that was produced by Savarkar that didn't get association of Ambedkar. So this is the tragedy of past. And one more point that in the first decade, the second decade of 20th century, when Indian nationalism was on the evolution, we had three streams. One stream was of Muslim League, the another stream was of Indian National Congress. And these two streams were so strong that at the same time, the voices for the Dalit raised by Ambedkar, it became also prominent. So Mahatma Gandhi, by different means, pacified the Dalits or the voices that Ambedkar wanted to represent. And this third voice was subdued. And the constitutionalism and the reflection of Ambedkar's philosophy in Indian constitution is peaceful in nature. He doesn't speak about revolution. He was a socialist also. And during his meeting of the minority committee, he told that my best choice for the system of governance would be socialism. And I'm having that statement here somewhere. And he says that if we don't go for this social, we have given political freedom to people, but if we fail to provide economic and social equality to people, then Indian democracy will be failing. There will be no social democracy in India. So his idea of democracy, his idea of social justice was democratic in nature. And later on, we all know that how this organization that was Panthers Party later on divided on the terms of constitutionalism and violent means, those who wanted to join the leftist stream. So Ambedkar was against left, so he never joined the idea of revolution or violent means of left. So the Ambedkarism has fallen into schools of expressions. Some are constitutional, some are little bit revolutionary. And this has been the tactic of the power schools of the power major ideologies, the right and the Congress, that this Dalit and the left don't get associated. If they get associated, then there can be a third big force that can challenge the status quo of these two political entities. So Ambedkar's idea of social justice in the last, I would he speak about the bringing rationality into our. I will come to the idea of reservation and the kind of debate we are having right now, and what Ambedkar, he had gone for reservation for 10 years, 20 years, then it has been for electoral interest, it has been extended time and again by different governments. So Ambedkar's idea of justice included three things, that social democracy that will be based on social and economic justice should have rationality. Rationality means people should have scientific temperament, and there should be there should be the element of digestion of diversities. We should be able to digest the existence of diversities, and the education becomes an important means to realize the dreams of Ambedkar and bring this social and economic equality to the marginalized, to the Dalits. So this is how the Ambedkar and his contemporaries have, over the years, expressed, and Ambedkarite voices are still very prominent. The problem is that it has become vulnerable to the political and different ideological schools in India, which keep on intervening and with the use of different pushes, they control this stream of thought. But Ambedkarism as a philosophy stands strong. And one more thing I would like to bring to your notice is that the recent debate over reservation, it was a temporary provision that Ambedkar wanted to introduce to bring equality and uplift. And at the stage a particular section gets uplifted, that has to be withdrawn. But now there has been, there are different questions, question of human rights, because the idea of reservation is the positive discrimination for the protection of interests of a particular community. And then there are the voices of human rights violation, because it violates the idea of equal opportunity. So there are clashes of these ideas which have given birth to some new legislations. EWS, economically weaker sections, are there, and there are other alternatives that people are thinking about. And sometimes it is believed that reservation is going to end all these inequalities. But over the 60, 70 years, we have learned that reservation, the idea of reservation has institutionalized these social differences. So we have to go beyond that. We have to think beyond that. And somewhere I find the Lohoite solution of intersectional approach also very relevant, which has to be taken into consideration. And the idea of reservation, the idea of social justice, Ambedkar was one thing that is lacking in the Dalits themselves. There has not been that self-realization that Ambedkar wanted. He spoke about the state priest system. He spoke about that. Let us go for studying our traditional scriptures in which you have faith. We can develop a class of educated priests. We are having Brahmins who are fourth pass and conducting all the rituals. Why not people from any category, from any caste, go and study those Puranas and literature and become priests? So if that monopoly of a particular caste, Brahman, is to be broken, then that suggestion has to be followed. And the voice should come from Dalits themselves. And it is better to break the shackles than to transform the religion. And that system that Ambedkar evoked at a particular stage has to be revived. His voice is still there. He wanted to create a priest class among all the sections of the society so that Brahmin hegemony could be broken, but that has not happened till now. His suggestion was agitate, organize, and express. So we have to learn from that. We have to express ourselves. We have to agitate for that. And there is a question. There are students who are asking for questions. If you want to go for questions, please place your questions, and place your questions after 1 minute. Please give me 1 minute break. Students want to discuss something. If they want to raise questions, they can. Then we can formally.
Sir, there are two questions. One is related, both are related to Dr. Ambedkar. पहला क्वेश्चन है कि असेंबली में हिंदू कोड बिल को पास नहीं किया गया जो सामाजिक न्याय से संबंधित था. एंड द सेकंड वन इज कि डॉक्टर अंबेडकर एक सच्चे राष्ट्रवादी थे और उन्होंने प्रॉब्लम ऑफ इंडियन रुपीज भी लिखी जो एक तरह से इकोनॉमिक एक्सप्लॉयटेशन को पूरा एक्सप्लेन करता है, लेकिन फिर भी उनको सिर्फ दलितों से जोड़ के क्यों देखा जाता है, न कि मासेस एज अ होल.
Rajiv ji, very wonderful question. I think Rajendra Kaur and one more were also their part when this Hindu code bill was discussed, and there were different dimensions to that, and it was presented in a different shape. As I told you in the beginning that Dr. Ambedkar, we are failing to understand him. He is the biggest Brahman of 20th century. And he was a polymath. He was, I told you that he was a great lawyer. He was a jurist. He was an economist. And I remember slightly that when this Reserve Bank of India was was founded somewhere in 34-35, the members who came from Britain about discussing the founding of Reserve Bank of India, they were carrying the copy of Dr. Ambedkar's thesis, The Problem of Rupee. I think this was the title. So his contribution is much more than his association with Dalits only. This is, I would say, this is the filling up of the space where one fits, and we simply place the person into that particular periphery. We want to consider Mahatma Gandhi as a father of nation, so we want to give whole of the credit to Mahatma Gandhi. But when Italy came, Italy or who came in 95 and visited Fort Williams in Calcutta, and he was asked by Indian journalists that what was the reason why why British left India. His answer was that it was INA, and Subhash's INA. Not the Mahatma Gandhi. So things have come to us in a different way, not as they are. And that's how the social and political narratives come to us. They are not always true. And the purpose of a researcher, the purpose of a genuine student is to break those narratives and come out with the realities.
Thank you, sir. Sir, hello.
Sir.
Yeah. सर एक छोटा सा पॉइंट था, मैं एक्चुअली उस पर थोड़ा सा पूछना चाहता था कि व्हेन यू टॉकिंग अबाउट द रिलीजन एंड अम्बेडकर व्यू कि स्टार्टिंग मतलब फर्स्ट ही क्रिटिसाइजेस द हिंदुइज्म एज ए फॉरबिस्ट यूज देयर, बट लेटर ऑन ही फील कि ऐसा नहीं हो सकता. And then he shifted to the Adi movement. और वो एक बड़ा मूवमेंट रहा है 1927 से लेके 1935 तक के बीच का. And where he proclaimed that कि Dalit and tribal are the original inhabitant of the this land. And then उनके से इन्फ्लुएंस होके यदि हम स्पेशली ये पंजाब और हरियाणा की बेल्ट में देखें तो वहाँ मंगूराम के नेतृत्व में आदि मूवमेंट शुरू भी होता है. और 1931 के सेंसस में लगभग 12 से 14% लोग अपने आप को आदि धर्मी बताते भी हैं, जिसका आज भी हमें इन्फ्लुएंस उस रीजन में देखने को मिलता है. Then what forced him to switching to the Buddhism? ये थोड़ा सा कहानी मतलब मुझे भी थोड़ी आज तक नहीं समझ में आई.
I'm also Rajiv.
First he tried with the Adi.
There is one volume, wonderful volume by Kumbrekar or something like this. I don't recall exactly the name. There are many wonderful articles and well-researched articles in that volume. You can go through them. I believe that the time from 1928, from his Bahishkrit Bharat or which journal, in which he started talking about that the only way to get dignity and equality and happiness to the Dalit community is relinquishing Hinduism. Then his preferences were Christianity and Islam. And when the Christians, when he met, and the idea came that it will be only a formal transformation, there will be no spiritual content, there will be no that absorption from that. That's true of Indian Christians also. They are not treated as Christians of Europe. We don't go into that. And similarly, he sent his emissaries to Amritsar also, and they talked about joining Sikhism, and again the answer was same, that those who have joined, they are still suffering here. He had no options, and then I refer to, I'm not sure how true it is, but it has been discussed by Timblukar, or that I can give you the name, I'm forgetting right now. I'm having that book with
Tenth
me.
Bule, sir.
Anand Teltumbre.
Tenth Bule.
Yes,
Yes,
he
sir.
has discussed in
Tenth
his
Bule. Yeah.
article that there was a agreement between this Munje of Hindu Mahasabha that Ambedkar will not be joining any religion of foreign origin. So it was a social pressure from majority. He was given death threats also. So many factors worked, and he had to join Buddhism. And in Buddhism, might be he had done in his theory of annihilation of caste, and that theory that they were basically Buddhists and they were thrown out and called untouchables, and they were placed at the lower ladder. That tribal existence and that tribal coexistence and the tribal diminishing of the status of a particular group. So there are so many things. We are still not into it. It is a process of learning, and I hope that by entering into such research endeavors and conferences and some serious research initiatives, we can come out with the realities.
And sir, one last question कि
Sure.
अभी जैसे कई पॉलिटिकल प्लेटफॉर्म पे अभी हम कंटेम्पोररी सोसाइटी की बात कर रहे हैं, तो भगत सिंह का समाजवाद और मार्क्सिस्ट फिलॉसफी और अंबेडकर का सोशल जस्टिस, ये तीनों एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे नजर आते हैं. कई प्लेटफॉर्म पे ऐसा देखा गया, चाहे वो रोहित वेमुला का मुद्दा हो या चंद्रशेखर रावण यूपी में जब मूवमेंट करते हैं तो भी वहां इस तीनों को जोड़ के रखते हैं. तो क्या उसमें कोरिलेशन है या तीनों अलग अलग है? ये क्वेश्चन था एक स्टूडेंट है राजन तिवारी, उनका मैं थोड़ा सा एलाबोरेट करूं.
This is a wonderful question, very advanced question. I would like to exclude Bhagat Singh from it, because when he writes that letter, why I am an atheist, he makes certain things clear. He dissociates himself from spirituality. But when we go for the ideas of Ambedkar, he says that I want to live Hinduism. I am not against Vedas. I am not against Bhagavad Gita. I am against the later creations, the post-Buddhist creations, and he calls Ramayana, Mahabharata, Manu Smriti, all the creations which are the creations of Brahminic dominance order, which are the creations for the dominance of a particular caste, that is Brahmin. And these are the over-imposed creations. He doesn't approve with that, but Ambedkar doesn't rule out the spiritual element from his the future society, from his philosophy. So Ambedkar and Ambedkar was he was never satisfied with the communist, and he says that Buddhism is the most revolutionary religion of the world, and it's true. Buddhism has spread faster than Islam to almost more than half of the world. Islam has not spread so fast as far as it happened with Buddhism. So he says Buddhism is more revolutionary. Buddhism, Lord Buddha is silent about God. So somehow many people try to convey that Buddhism doesn't believe in God. They are silent about God. But the Buddhist order of discipline, it brings dignity to. But it brings dignity to every member of the society. That was the purpose. The purpose of Ambedkar was how social justice can be established by establishing those three elements of liberty, equality, and fraternity of French Revolution. He said that don't equate my argument with French Revolution. My argument is different. It is the argument of individual dignity. And in Indian social order, if it is possible, there is no challenge, there is no force that can stop us from joining any other religion. So it is a very complex kind of interaction and influences which worked on the mental plane of mental landscape of Ambedkar, and his ideas still need lots of. I wonder when Ambedkar gave the idea that we should have our own state priest system. State priest system means a Brahmin, only those priests, I'm not saying Brahmin, only those priests should be allowed to perform religious rituals, social rituals who are eligible. Means for that there will be an examination system, there will be a syllabus just like BA, Acharya hota hai, or all those who are performing those, who are accomplishing those degrees, only they will be eligible. Then there will be no discrimination, admission will be open to all. And if that happens, then the real Brahmins, as I told you, that Ambedkar himself was the biggest Brahmin of 20th century. He was such a literate person. That system can, that system that he suggested can eliminate the social differences, the caste discriminations, but that has never been followed. Is there some association or fear among Dalits that if they go for this, they are having some spiritual inhibitions that will not be right, but that has been taught by Vedas and the Brahminic scriptures that only Brahmin can perform these particular rituals. Those damn things have to be broken. Ambedkar has suggested this 70 years back, but this has not happened. Last year also I had a lecture here at Ambedkar chair and I discussed that why this has not happened. This is a big question. Had this happened and we have eligible priests from all the castes, this monopoly can be broken. Instead of some professor from JNU or Delhi University, I found him shouting that why reservation should be there, we should be given reservation in chief ministership, we should be given a reservation in IAS ship. I tell you that reservation has played havoc with our system. Those who once become secretaries or state civil servants or big professors, only their sons are getting the benefit of reservation. It doesn't pilfer to the actual affected. Or we should go for refining of this reservation system, that those who have got benefit for one generation, they should be excluded because they are economically and power-wise, they have benefited out of that. Only then the benefit of reservation can pilfer to the smaller segments of those who have not benefited. And if you propose something for this, if you propose something in Indian scenario on the basis of economic reservation, then all politicians are out and they will trigger different kind of violence and different kind of interest into this their political articulation process, the electoral process, and the things become difficult. I would say that the actual thing is that the economic backwardness has to be managed politically, and the social discrimination has to be managed politically, educationally, economically, as well as socially. And socially, it can be managed only if we go for this the priest system that has been recommended by Ambedkar. I'm really concerned about this.
Thank you,
Sir, good
sir.
afternoon,
Actually,
sir.
there are two more questions, but related to the reservation. Vaibhav,
Now you can go ahead.
in
I
chat
don't have
box.
Good,
and that
Good afternoon, sir.
there are two more questions, sir. One is related to the reservation. Sir is already talking about that,
Am I
and
am I audible, sir?
again that is repeated. Ki why? Uh, um, yeah, Vaibhav, proceed.
Yes, sir,
Sir,
please
I
go.
have a question that you discussed earlier that in your statements, John Rawls' theory of justice is an opposite end of. It seems that an opposite end of utilitarianism. But
Yes,
sir,
yes.
as you discussed that if any inequality is better, then it must be implemented. But this inequality may be मतलब किसी और सोसाइटी की नजर में वो सर
आपको
खराब भी हो सकती है तो
नहीं, आप हिंदी में बोल रहे हैं। जॉन रॉल्स ने यूटिलिटेरियंस को एक क्राइटेरिया लिया अपना आइडिया फॉरवर्ड करने के लिए। यूटिलिटेरियंस कहते हैं कि भी ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोगों का फायदा हो। जॉन रॉल्स बोल
चलो
जॉन रॉल्स जो है जस्टिस का इंस्टीट्यूशनल डी एंटोलॉजिकल व्यू लेते हैं कि भी जस्टिस तो फिक्स है, ये तो उसी आधार पे डिसीजन होगा जो संविधान में लिख दिया गया है। अमर्त्य सेन बोलते हैं कि कोई भी पॉलिसी तब तक सही नहीं होती जब तक कि उसका कॉन्सिक्वेंस ना आए। कॉन्सिक्वेंस मीन्स आप एक नीति बना दो और फायदा हो नहीं रहा है, यू हैव टू चेंज द नीति। दैट मीन्स कॉन्सिक्वेंशियल अप्रोच मीन्स जब बेनिफिट मेजोरिटी को परकोलेट कर गया और किसी खास पॉलिसी से कर गया, दैट मीन्स दैट पॉलिसी इज जस्ट। सो ये उस वजह से ऑपोजिट डायरेक्शन की बात है। जस्टिस की जो डिस्कशन है इट इज वेरी बाद में वॉल्स एंड फ्यू मोर पीपल हैव गिवन दिस डिबेट इज कैरिंग ऑन और वो बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग है। और इसमें मुझे तो लगता है कि अंबेडकर को अगर हम न्याय की सिर्फ न्याय सामाजिक न्याय को हटा के न्याय की अवधारणा में जोड़ेंगे तो उसमें हम अंबेडकर के अर्थव्यवस्था संबंधी विचार, हम लोग कितने लोग जानते हैं कि डॉक्टर अंबेडकर ने भारत की विदेश नीति पे जो विचार किया था, जो आइडिया दिया था, वो ही वाज अपोज टू पंचशील और ही कोटेड बिस्मार्क। ही सेड कि भाई बिस्मार्क सेज कि भाई इफ यू वांट टू बी प्रैक्टिकल एंड अचीव योर एंड्स इन फॉरेन पॉलिसी you have to be practical and not idealist. You have not to follow the fake ideals, हम भाई भाई हैं, ये हैं वो हैं। So diplomats और foreign policy mentors को they have to be practical। कितनी बार आप चीन के साथ भाई भाई करेंगे, देखो ना आज की डेट में क्या हाल हो रहा है। अंबेडकर was strictly against पंचशील आइडिया एंड वो हमने उनका एरिया ही एक्सप्लोर नहीं किया। वही बात आ गई जो राजीव जी बोल रहे हैं कि अभी दलित तक ही ये सीमित हो गया आर्गुमेंट। तो ये तो बहुत किसी आदमी के अस्तित्व को अगर आपने शून्य करना है तो उसको एक ही तरफ ले जाओ, उसकी बातें बाकी बातें सुनो ही नहीं। 40 से ज्यादा किताबें अगर अम्बेडकर जी ने लिखी है, बहुत कुछ मिलेगा। अच्छा भी होगा बुरा भी होगा, बुरे को वी कैन क्रिटिसाइज, लेकिन जो अच्छा है उसे हम ग्रहण ग्रहण कर सकते हैं, उसको नीति में उसका निर्धारण कर सकते हैं, नीति में परिवर्तन कर सकते हैं। इन चीजों का तभी तो लाभ है। तो ये हमें आइडियोलॉजिकल शैकल्स से निकलना है, हमें जातिवादी शैकल्स से जंजीरों से निकलना है। और जो अम्बेडकर ने कहा है, मैं तो इस बात पे खास स्ट्रेस करता हूं कि भी क्यों हमारे बच्चे डिफरेंट कैटेगरीज के सभी जातियों के क्यों नहीं जाते संस्कृत पढ़ने। संस्कृत किसी की मोनोपोली थोड़ी ना है। हम लोग खुद इंटरेस्ट नहीं लेते तो ब्राह्मण वर्ग तो आपको डोमिनेट करेगा। आप जाओ संस्कृत पढ़ो, आप सारा रिचुअल्स परफॉर्म करो, आप ही के भाई सब फॉलो करेंगे, हम फॉलो करेंगे पढ़े लिखे आदमियों का। तो इस तरीके से शैकल्स आपके ब्रेक होंगे, रिजर्वेशन से नहीं होंगे। हमने देखा है, ये मैं नाम नहीं लूंगा, हमने देखा है कि जो एक परदादा आईएएस बना था एसटी से या एससी से, उनके बच्चे आज तक एचएस आईएएस ही बन रहे हैं। दे आर एक्सप्लॉइटिंग। जब रिसोर्सेज हाथ में आ जाते हैं, दे हैव मोर एक्सेस टू द सिस्टम। और जब आपके पास ये चीजें, आपके नाम के लिए आपको रिजर्वेशन दे दिया, यू डोंट हैव एक्सेस, आप क्या करेंगे? रिजर्वेशन का क्या करेंगे अगर आपके पास सिस्टम से एक्सेस नहीं है? सिस्टम के एक्सेस का मतलब है बहुत सी फैसिलिटीज, एजुकेशन है, कोचिंग है, बहुत से एक्सेसेस है सिस्टम के साथ। तो जब आपके वो एक्सेस पूरी नहीं होगी तो रिजर्वेशन इज इनकम्प्लीट। और अगर ये कहें हम कि भाई रिजर्वेशन को हमने एक रिवेंजफुल एक पॉलिसी बनाना है कि आज तक हायर कास्ट ने वो दमन किया है, तो अब रिजर्वेशन के माध्यम से हायर कास्ट को दमन करो. There remains no difference between that traditional dominance system and the newly visioned dominance system. So dominance system को डेवलप करने की बजाय, हेट्रेड डेवलप करने की बजाय, ये अभी जब भीमराव अंबेडकर ने भीमयान दिया, भीमयान उन्होंने एक बात की है जिसमें कि बुद्धिस्ट प्रिंसिपल्स को कैरी फॉरवर्ड किया है, तो उसको सबसे पहले क्रिटिसाइज बुद्धिस्ट ने किया. और बुद्धिस्ट ने ये आर्गुमेंट दी कि गौतम बुद्ध ने तो कभी हिंसा की बात नहीं की है. लेकिन अगर अंबेडकर एक भीमयान, एक ऐसे बुद्धिज्म की बात कर रहे हैं कि जिसमें आरक्षण और इसके तहत सारी डोमिनेंस को हम खत्म कर देंगे, तो वो कह रहे हैं कि उसमें हिंसा है, उसमें वैचारिक हिंसा है, उसमें पदार्थवादी हिंसा है. तो जो ख्याल जिसमें हिंसा है वो गौतम बुद्ध का ख्याल नहीं है. तो इस तरीके से भीमयान को अपोज किया गया. अदरवाइज अंबेडकर के जो आइडियाज हैं वो गौतम बुद्ध की तरह ही रेवोल्यूशनरी है, लेकिन कुछ एक जगहों पे उनमें थोड़ा सा डिफरेंस है, वो हमें समझने की जरूरत है. लेकिन जो जेन्युइन चीजें हो सकती हैं वो हमें फॉलो करनी है वो चीजें.
सर हेलो. सर वैसे सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इंदिरा साहनी का जो केस आया था 90 में, इंदिरा साहनी वर्सेस यूनियन ऑफ इंडिया में, दैट आल्सो ट्राई टू जस्टिफाई टू ए ग्रेटर एक्सटेंट कि रिजर्वेशन benefits taken by the parents who are in A grade or first class services, they should be kept out of that purview so that the other communities can get benefits. But due to polity or petty politics, that was overruled by the parliament.
तो ये चीजें हैं,
सर
ये दिक्कतें करनी पड़ेंगी.
हाँ जी सर. हाँ जी राजीव जी, बहुत बढ़िया लेक्चर है.
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू फॉर योर वेरी थॉट प्रोवोकिंग. जी सर, thank you sir, thank you for your very thought provoking lecture, and especially view of Dr. Ambedkar. Just दो छोटी छोटी बातें I want to just add. I buy speech and writings of Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar and I am amazed to see that is more than 15,000 pages. I feel in 20th century there's no other great scholar like Ambedkar, especially in India. And I'm not assigning Ambedkar to a particular caste, creed, or section. He's a very prolific writer and a very systematic writer. Number two, when you talk about the reservations, sir, definitely the recent writing of when I'm going to the Surendra's Jyotka or Badrinaran and all that, they talk about the existence of class within the Dalit framework. And this class is multi-layered and a multi-layered hierarchy is there. That was much talked earlier also, especially in terms of